One city in Washington state wants to require landlords to give 6 months notice before having a rent increase, saying that it's going to help with homelessness. But in my opinion, it's not going to help anything. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. Alright, so I have an interesting article for you today, and once again, it's coming out of Washington State. As I've mentioned many times before, Washington State, they seem to be in a battle with California to see who can go the farthest to the left in terms of being anti-property rights and anti-business. So right now, the city of Spokane is trying to determine if requiring landlords to, give 6 months notice before filing a rent increase with the tenant, if that is a good plan or not. They claim that it's going to help with homelessness. Now, no matter how I think about this situation, I don't understand how it's going to help with homelessness. Now, housing is not affordable there. The landlord has to give a 6-month rent increase. So I guess they are assuming that with the additional waiting time, then that will somehow prevent a tenant from becoming homeless. I don't know. I don't know what their logic is, and it doesn't make much sense to me at all. Maybe it'll go over that detail in the article. Maybe they'll talk to one of these people who put this plan proposal in place. But what I can tell you it'll do is it'll make it a lot harder for landlords, and they're going to have to jump through a lot more hoops now, because I believe Washington State does have like a statewide rent control that caps rents at like their rent increases at like 10%. So not only do they already have rent control within the state, but they also now have to give just a huge amount of advance notice before they do whatever little minuscule rent increase that the state allows. So, that's ridiculous to me. Basically what they're saying is, as soon as the tenant moves in, you have to notify them immediately that you're going to raise the rent. Otherwise, you won't be able to. Taking away the landlord's ability to raise the rent on top of the statewide rent control. That's insane. Okay, it's insane because it's going to have a lot of unintended consequences. And those unintended consequences is that, a lot of tenants are going to get rent increases that they otherwise would not have gotten if they hadn't changed the law. Because now landlords feel obligated to throw that rent increase out there. Otherwise, they're not going to have the opportunity to do it. Okay, they're going to lose that opportunity. They're going to lose that rent increase, and they're going to lose money if we continue to have inflation like we have been getting for the last few years. So yeah, this is going to have negative effects on the tenants, but do you really think these politicians know that? No. They're very short-sighted. They see things through right now the tenant won't have to face a rent increase. Yeah, well, you know what? You're making things more difficult for landlords. Some landlords are going to leave the business. They're going to get sick of following all these stupid rules. They're just going to get out of the business. So anyway, before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. So do you think that requiring landlords to give 6 months notice of a rent increase is actually going to help with homelessness? Yeah, I mean, that's a hard one for me. Hard for me to understand. Maybe someone can explain in the comments how exactly this works, okay? Because I don't get it. I don't get how this is going to stop homelessness from being an issue, okay? Or how this is going to help prevent people from becoming homeless. I just don't. It doesn't make sense. Like, if these people were going to become homeless, then waiting or getting an extra 2 months notice of a rent increase isn't going to suddenly make them not homeless, Okay, anyway, let me get into this article. We'll go over the details, hopefully. This article is coming from the centersquare.com, and it says, Spokane to consider requiring up to 6 months notice before landlords hike rent. Yep, more anti-landlord legislation coming out of Washington State. So let's see what the article says. The city of Spokane may soon require landlords to give tenants at least 4 months notice before raising the price of rent under an ordinance the city council will vote on April 29th. The ordinance takes a step further than the state legislature's 60-day standard by requiring landlords to provide tenants with no less than a 120-day notice when raising rent by 3% or less. That minimum increases to a 180-day notice if the hike exceeds 3%. So already, the state of Washington already has a notification standard that is higher than a lot of other places in the terms of, it says that the state requires 60-day notice right now. But according to the city of Spokane, that isn't enough. We need to give them, if they increase the rent up to 3%, they need 4 months. They need double that amount of time in notice. And if they increase the rent over 3%, if you're raising your rent by 4%, oh Lord, they need 6 months notice. What a joke, okay? This is absolutely ridiculous. And we're talking about minuscule numbers in many cases. So, as I've mentioned many times before, you do the math. If the rent is $1,000 a month, what is a 3% increase? It's $30 a month, okay? Very, very, very small. So, yeah, anything above that $30 a month, and you have to give 6 months notice? Yeah, it's not going to help with homelessness. It's not, okay? But let me continue. However, according to the ordinance, tenants in subsidized housing only require a 30-day notice before the rent is increased, as per state law. Council member Paul Dillon submitted paperwork for the measure earlier this month, citing tenants' need for additional time when finding a new place to live after being priced out. As rent increases and vacancies remain low, more people fall victim to Spokane's housing crisis, according to the ordinance. More than 21,000 households, which account for 90% of Spokane's renters, spent more than 30% of their income on rent in 2022. So, okay, I think that's some of the logic they're using. They're like, oh, well, this will give people more time in order to find housing, if their rent increases, and that will keep them from being homeless, right? So apparently 2 months isn't enough. You need to give them 2 years to be able to find housing, right? Wrong. Okay, this is a joke. This is an absolute joke, and we know it. This isn't going to stop these people, the same people, or if they can't find a house within 2 months, how much time do you really think they need? How much time do they really need? Do we need to give them 2 years, 3 years, 4 years without a rent increase? You got to give me notice. Otherwise, I won't be able to find a place. No. Okay. If they can't afford the housing, it's most likely the landlord is bringing the rent up to market rates, right? So they're going to go out and they're going to look at housing in the rest of the market, and the rental prices are going to be about the same. So it doesn't matter if you give these people an additional 2 or 4 months of notice, they're still going to have the same problem of, hey, I can't afford it. So what they really want to do is they want to limit how much landlords can charge in rent. They want to make it so that landlords can't raise the rent. And like I said, they already have statewide rent control up there, but they want to basically the landlord to subsidize the housing of these tenants forever. Okay, let them stay, let the landlord just lose money off of the tenant, and no questions asked, right? That's what the goal is. Maybe we could just turn the housing straight over to the government so that the government can run it, right? That's what these socialists want. They want private business owners or private property rights to be eliminated, okay? If approved and successful, the measure could act as the city's first defense in addressing increased homelessness and increase housing stability for low-income renters in the city of Spokane, according to the ordinance. See, and there they go right there. They're like, this is the first defense in addressing homelessness, right? And I'm just like, hey, this isn't going to stop people from becoming homeless, okay? Low-income people are still going to have trouble because the real issue, and I know we all know this, supply and demand. There is a high demand for affordable housing for lower income people, but there is not a lot of supply of it. So how does this address the supply and demand? Okay, so does requiring landlords to give an extra 4 months of notice for a rent increase, does that increase the number of rental units, affordable rental units out there for people? No. Okay, well, does giving an additional 4 months notice, does that decrease the demand for affordable rental units out there for people? Well, no. So it neither increases the supply nor decreases the demand. So basically, it does nothing. It does absolutely nothing to actually help with homelessness, with affordable housing crisis within the city. It's just a feel-good measure that some politicians threw up there because they want to get votes. That's it. Okay, so anyway, I'll put a link to this article in the description down below. Let me know what you think of this whole thing. Do you think giving just outrageously long amounts of notice about a rent increase, do you think that's actually going to help with homelessness?